Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sorting Hat Podcast. I, as always, am your host, Michael Barryte, joined by my co-host, Katie Reed.
What's up?
And we, on the Sorting Hat Podcast, are sorting things into the various houses of Hogwarts. That's the basic conceit of the show. Based on a theme suggested by our expert guest today, we are joined by the wonderful and talented Kellie Whisler. Kellie, you might be familiar with, as she is both an improviser in the LA community. She's a voice actress on various cartoons, and she also has a YouTube channel and podcast called The Decks, where she is talking about all things Pokemon.
It's true.
Did I leave any of your credits out?
I'm a veterinary technician.
That's true as well.
You might have seen her making your dog not
Feel
have,
better.
yeah, like worms or something.
And so Kellie is a master of many different knowledge banks. However, today we are going to be dealing specifically with legendary trios within the Pokemon series.
Ooh, getting deep cuts.
Yes.
Oh, I am ready for these deep cuts as somebody who hasn't really played Pokemon since the 6th of grades.
Great. Great.
You played a little bit of one of the newer ones, correct?
I feel like it's accurate that at some point there was a Game Boy on like a bathroom toilet that had Pokemon Black or White in it.
Mm-hmm.
So so besides that and Pokemon Yellow as a child, that is the extent of my knowledge of this universe.
Well, Kellie is a master as far as like this sort of stuff goes. And it is worth noting when we are talking trios, there's some degree of distinction that we need to be making.
Yeah. So trios are a common thing in Pokemon. A lot of the generations have a group of 3 legendary Pokemon creatures that are kind of grouped together in a certain way. One that almost everybody's familiar with is Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, the one from the first game.
Oh, okay.
But there are a lot of different ones, and not only are there those kinds of trios, but there are also trios. The pantheon of legendary Pokemon in the Pokemon games is crazy. And so you'll have trios like Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres that are like obviously they fit in together.
Right.
And then you have something a little bit more obscure like Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde, which are like XYZ. Like, do they have a name on like
according to the Wikipedia page that I am looking at, or the Bulbapedia page,
good
they are
resource.
the Aura Trio.
The Aura Trio. Okay,
Whoa,
yeah.
okay.
So, like, that's fine. Like, that's cool. But the fact that they are so kind of separated because Zygarde is, like, barely in Gen 6 at all. He's more focused on in Gen 7. That's kind of, like, less of a trio. Plus, they're also box legendaries, which is, like, a totally different kettle of fish. So I think we'll more focus on the trios that are within the games and, like, true trios. As opposed to maybe some of those, but we can get back to them and stuff. There's lots of groups, and then you got Tapus in Gen 7 that are like a quad.
Right, which is
quadro.
actually I started Pokemon Moon and didn't complete it. As I was telling Kellie off mic that I play the Pokemon games more just to be like encountering and catching and battling Pokemon, and Pokemon Sun and Moon was like, no, stop. There's a lot of story that we got to tell you, and I just felt constantly being like, but there's stuff over there. And they're like, no, this story's great. And I'm like, I don't doubt that.
Speaking of great stories, is this the Pokemon game that you accidentally committed a federal offense in order to obtain?
What?
What is this?
Okay,
Calling you out.
Yeah, so we, Katie and I were... At that time, we were still working together as editors, and we were desperately trying to get a hard drive that we thought was in the mail with footage for us to be editing for, I believe, next week's video.
Yeah, it was at the time it was like a quick turnaround video, but
right.
Yeah, that's
So in any case, I go to the front desk and I'm like, hey, has anything come in for either Katie or I? And the receptionist was like, no, I'm sorry. And I was like, and then she was like, but for Smosh, like there was something that came in for Anthony,
He was my boss. He's my boss. He was Michael's boss at the time.
And so I was like, okay, maybe that's it. Maybe it was just like an accidental filing. I'll take it. And it did have the packaging that seemed
It
like
looked exactly like in Michael's defense before he goes to jail. It looked exactly like the kind of thing that would have a drive for us.
So you took the mail. You went into a secluded
closet. I took the
closet.
mail. I opened it, and it was from Nintendo 2 copies of Pokemon Sun and Moon, like 3 weeks or 2 weeks before
So first of all,
it
yeah, I'm not even sure if Anthony was supposed to be blown about the fact that he had a copy. But second of all, Anthony didn't even know he had a copy. I just heard Michael go, "Oh no!" And like I look over and he's just holding like these video games. I'm like, "What is this?" He's like, "I opened the mail."
Yeah, so I then sent him like a very apologetic text, and he was like, "Ha ha ha! I'm going to send you to prison."
But then, and this is unprecedented, and this is just the power of Michael's charisma. Like he has high charisma points if he was like a rolled character. Anthony not only let him keep that copy of the game, but then I think didn't he also give you a huge pile of other video games he didn't want anymore?
Those two stories are disparate in nature.
Not in my headcanon. In my headcanon, you got rewarded for being a dang thief.
It was more, he wasn't going to play both Pokemon Sun and Moon, so he was like, I'll just play Moon. You can have Sun. And I was like, all right, great. I'm not mad at that.
Great.
But, so, in any case, we are dealing with the trios as follows. We have our legendary birds, our legendary beasts, our legendary titans, our lake guardians, our forces of nature, and then, what was it, Swords of Justice?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so that...
I don't know why they're not included on this list because they're absolutely a trio. Yes, there are like 4, but like Keldeo's not really in the trio. Like they're...
Oh, Keldeo's considered...
Keldeo is like, well, because he's D'Artagnan. And so like there's the 3, they're based on the 3 Musketeers, and then there's like, that's him, right? That's like the 4th guy that like comes in, right?
I didn't
There's the 3
read.
Musketeers, and then there's like this 4th guy that like comes in, and he's like, I'm here too, but like it's the 3 Musketeers.
So-
And that's basically what the Swords of Justice are, and Keldeo is the
Gotcha.
4th guy.
Gotcha. So he's the Zeppo of the 3 Musketeers.
Yeah.
We're going 2 different references. You like
We're starting to get into the fandoms that do not cry.
I haven't read 3 Musketeers. I haven't read any Dumas. You haven't watched that many Marx Brothers films.
For some reason, that like crossed over my fandoms perfectly, and
Right.
I'm very satisfied. Like, that's a good.
Yeah, I saw
dang
the
good one.
lights in Katie's eyes like illuminated, being like, "This is a fan fiction I didn't know I wanted."
Yo, but they're all gonna go out on this one because I'm looking at all these trios and I'm like, what's been happening, Pokemon? What?
Well, we're gonna
Some
dive
of these
in.
only suggest the idea of an animal. I'm so excited.
All right, so let's start with probably the one that everybody knows the most, which is the legendary birds, our Articuno, our Zapdos, and our Moltres.
Well, okay. Do you guys remember which one that you guys like in the games? Do you have to catch them in a certain order, or are you allowed to go after them?
No, you can go in any order. Moltres, I think, was a little bit harder because it was in the Victory Road, which is like the final thing before you finish the game.
Yeah.
But you could get them in whatever order you wanted. You can also like come upon them and just like leave them there for a little bit and come back and get them later.
Which one
But
are you
in
guys
all
the most
cases-
hyped on?
what?
What were you guys the most hyped to get?
Zapdos.
Oh, me too. Zapdos is the best one for sure.
But it definitely was also a situation where, like, you'd go in and try to catch it, and if it either broke free or, like, ran or you fainted, you'd, like, definitely just, like, hard reset the game and, like,
You
start
only
over.
you only get one chance.
Right. What? But, like, we all remember we did that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah. So...
You save right in front of it just in case.
Yeah, you stay right in front of it, you save, and then you try the battle, and then, nope. Try it again. Slide that bar. Of these, I feel they're the most clear cut and straightforward. I also have the best understanding of these. As we were also discussing off mic before we started recording, this one feels most clearly as just like an elemental trio.
Yeah, because something about the trios that if you don't know, you should know is that each of them, they have a certain purpose in the games that they're in, which will be more clear as we go on because that was something that wasn't really implemented as much in Gen 1 because it was the first Pokemon game. And so they weren't really like thinking about like, how does this fit in with the whole But yeah, the legendary birds are kind of more of like just like elemental forces. I go by the game canon and not the movie canon because they're two separate things. So we have to make that clear because some people are like, oh, but in the Power of One, actually, I don't know if it was the Power of One even. It's very different camps, those two. But basically the legendary birds are more just kind of like elemental beasts, and they're all kind of secluded in areas that people don't usually normally go. So they were more kind of like a hunt and find, like, ooh, these cool things in these cool places. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, the other ones will have a more deep backstory.
I'm so glad I'm getting these broken down by two Ravenclaws. Which I don't know if we mentioned. Kellie's a Ravenclaw, and right. I'm getting so much education. Like this feels like an episode of Cosmos.
That's like my dream. Is like that's the show that I do is as much as possible Bill Nye the Science Guy for Pokemon. So.
It totally feels that way.
It's great. It's great. If you haven't seen the decks, you should definitely give it a watch. If you have any liking of the Pokemon world, I feel in just a most straightforward nature that they might actually be a Ravenclaw just because they're like pure elemental, like very straightforward in their nature.
I think that makes sense. Yeah. Cause they don't really have any personality ascribed to them where, I don't know. I mean, like Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, like, aside from they're all kind of badasses, mm-hmm. Yeah. Like they don't really have any sort of like personality or anything that they contribute to the story of any of the games.
Right. I suppose there also could be an argument made for them that they are perhaps a Gryffindor in the fact that they're like the bold introduction mm-hmm. of like something outside of the customary Pokemon that you're encountering, because there's only one. You have that sort of like I'm torn as to whether or not it is a Gryffindor or Ravenclaw in that camp for those very reasons, because it is like there's a straightforward simplicity that's also like very I'm torn.
I think that it would kind of depend on what generation you encountered them in first, because they are in Gen 1 and they're kind of sequestered in their own like castles of like Zapdos is found in the power plant, Articuno is found in the Seafoam Islands, and Moltres is found in like this like hollowed out mountain called Victory Road. And so in that sense, they're kind of like paragons of that area. And to me, that seems more like a Ravenclaw thing. Mm-hmm. But in Gen 6, they were all roaming legendaries where you would just find one in the wild and they would be like, haha, I'm here. You'd fight it. And then if you didn't get it, they would run off and you'd have to go find them again, which is what the legendary beasts are like as well. But mm-hmm. that's kind of more like the roaming aspect of it is kind of I don't know. I feel like that's less of a Ravenclaw quality because roaming kind of reminds me of adventure and getting out and stuff.
That would make it lean more towards Gryffindor for me, the roaming aspect.
Yeah, like gaining your knowledge through experience instead of like technically on paper. Like there's less ideology to these birds.
I think to that very reason, you could make the argument that Gen 1 legendary birds trio is Ravenclaw, as they've mm-hmm. got sort of their sanctuary space,
mm-hmm. right?
Of like, this is my domain, this is my temple of wisdom, as it were. Whereas Gen 6 legendary birds fall into a Gryffindor. They're like,
remember
camp.
Me? I'm here. I'm back. I'm out now, and I don't care.
Yeah,
like a recent divorcee.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel good about that. Do we want to dive into now? This is. Going into Gen 2 and 3 is where because I dipped out at this point and then came back in on Diamond and Pearl.
Gotcha. So, Gen 2 is my favorite gen, and the trio in this game I like a lot because they have a very, very cool story. Mm-hmm. The story behind Entei, Raikou, and Suicune they were Pokemon that were in a tower that was burned and collapsed, and they died.
Oh no! What?
Yeah. So there were 3 unknown Pokemon. We don't know who these Pokemon were, but it's rumored. It's a very popular rumor that it was a Jolteon, Flareon, and a Vaporeon, but that's I mean, just the types are the same, but like I don't know for sure if that's true.
So them dying somehow like gave them a special evolution?
Well, what happened was that tower that burned down, Ho-Oh, which is like the box legendary for the Johto games. He's that rainbow like phoenix, like he's a phoenix basically.
Yeah.
He resurrected those 3 Pokemon into Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, who became these very, very powerful legendary beasts. And these ones are also roaming legendaries in the fact that once you go to Ekritique Tower and you see them for the first time, they're like, oh, peace! And they all split. And then it's the same thing. You have to find them out. You have to like find them, and you can track them in the games, but it was really hard because they would move routes every time you encountered them. So that was like a really cool side quest, like tracking down these legendary. I call them the dogs. They're called the beasts.
They look like puppies, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of like a mix of dogs and cats and stuff. And so there's like a very divisive community that calls them dogs and a very divisive community that calls them cats. But beasts is the appropriate word for them. But yeah, I guess in that sense, to me, it's kind of mystical, this sort of thing, which almost it makes it difficult for me to decide because I almost want to go for like I don't think they're Hufflepuff. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to go to like a Slytherin-y aspect based on like the lore and the mysticism and stuff like that. But they always seem very, very noble, and they always seem like they're trying. I mean, in Pokemon Crystal, Suicune, it plays a very more prominent role, and Suicune is like trying to keep balance. And so I don't know if that's a Slytherin trait or not.
I think they definitely do have a nobility to them.
I mean, and if you look at Entei, he's like, I'm a Gryffindor. Like, I'm literally Gryffindor. He's
yeah. Like with the chest out, leading with the chest.
Yeah, he's like this giant red lion.
Yeah.
Where the other two kind of seem like they're leading with their heads. Like Suicune is definitely leading with the head, and Raikou's leading with the feet a little bit. If I'm just going off of like this picture, yeah,
I like that you're doing that. That makes me happy.
Suicune also, just for the record, has like the dopest of designs of the 3, in my opinion.
That's cool. I think it's funny. I like Entei the best, but everyone loves Suicune too.
So is Ho-Oh a god in this universe to other Pokemon? Like, is it? Because you say boss, but like Ho-Oh made new Pokemon out of the spirits of other Pokemon.
Right. So legendaries are they kind of draw the line between gods and Pokemon, and it's really kind of obscure. I liken them kind of more to like the Greek pantheon than anything else, because each of them do have very extraordinary powers, but none of them are really like I mean, Arceus is the creator of life, allegedly. However, Tapu Lele is also based on like a creator of life in the Hawaiian mythology. And so there's a lot of overlap of like, who's the boss? And so it's kind of like the simple explanation is that like Arceus is the god of the Pokemon. But that's kind of it, I guess.
They're like Gen 7, I feel, created a collision of cultures with Pokemon.
Yes. And I think that was, and I really like that. And I think that's really super interesting because of the fact that that's kind of how it is in the real world. Like everyone always assumed that Gen 4, when they put forward this lore, that like that was the truth. Yeah. But now that we know more about the other Pokemon, it's maybe just an ideology and it might not actually be the truth. And then, you know, maybe the Tapus are the real gods, or maybe like, I don't know. It's really cool though, because it seems like in each game, instead of having like an overarching like creation myth, it's kind of like a nebulous cloud of like, these guys are all involved, but we're not sure how. And I don't know. I would really like to do like a study or read a really scholarly article on like religion in Pokemon world, because it's really complex.
Especially when the characters within the story, especially the scientists who are like trying to create new life, like I can tell in Pokemon that like the story people are obsessed with the idea of like of playing God versus like the natural creation of life.
Ethics are definitely a huge part in the Pokemon world. I mean, I believe it was was it X and Y that N was in, or was that black and white?
Black and white.
Yeah, which that was like the first time that I can recall anyway.
Which is it's the best name for that game ever because it's so great. That game is so great.
Like outright were like, oh, this is a mistreatment of Pokemon. Like this is, and like your like enemy character was strangely the one who had like the moral high ground, really.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see a game franchise become self-conscious almost in a way, like taking a meta like reflection of like what the information, the message that it's putting out to children, because like, you know, it was designed for children. It just happens, I think, because it has such a core set of values that it's like resonates with older people. This game is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously complicated, and most people that don't spend all their time thinking about it just like don't worry about it. But like the implications for like what exactly is like, how exactly did people arrive on that world, and how did Pokemon get there? It's like crazy, and there are clues to it everywhere, but it's so hard to figure out.
To loop things back, I do feel that the beasts fall into your Slytherin camp. I think because they're attacking this new life with such gusto that's sort of you could make the argument that because of that it's Gryffindor. However, I think that it's the ambition that is driving them more so than maybe it is determination and bravery, which would make them make them a Gryffindor.
I'm kind of almost leaning towards that camp the more that I think about them, because like in relation to the other trios, like the one that we're about to talk about next is also very weird, and like I'm excited to see what you guys think of that one, both of you not having a lot of experience with this game. But I think that Gryffindor could be more accurate because they are very noble in their nature.
And they're coming back and trying to like represent something more than what they theoretically did based on at least what you've told me.
Yes.
Cool. Sorted. We don't customarily like declare that, but gavel. We've done it. On to, I've never understood these guys.
Oh man, I'm stoked on these. I love completely non-animal looking ones. Things that just look like objects are always my favorite, just on like a level of like, this is funny to me.
So the legendary Titans, I'm gonna tell you guys how you get them in the game because it's the coolest puzzle in Pokemon. The coolest puzzle in Pokemon. I wish there was another something like that. So Regice, Registeel, and Regirock are 3 golems that have been asleep underneath the earth. And they're when you're playing through the game, you sometimes come upon these like stones that have these like dots carved into them, and you're like, "What does this mean? I don't understand." And you will find approximately 3 of them during your travels. But eventually, you go to a cave, and there's all these dots carved into the walls, and it's Braille. And if you translate the Braille, it gives you a poem. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it gives you this poem that eventually leads you to the what you have to do is you have to get 2 Pokemon. You have to get a Wailord, which is the largest Pokemon, and you have to get Relicanth, which is allegedly the oldest Pokemon. And you have to put one at the top of your party and one at the bottom of your party, and then go to this cave. And if you do that, the cave will open up, and you'll be able to see the first Reggie, is their colloquialism, the first Titan. And that stuff, it's almost like eldritch in nature. It's so weird and cool, and there's nothing else like that. These guys are also lorded over by another trio guy named Regice, who is like the boss of all them.
And he's normal type, correct?
And that one's a normal type, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I like these guys because they're not the types that they are, have no relation to life. It's steel, ice, and rock.
Yeah. Which is also a very interesting like break from what we had seen up until this point, just assuming like, oh, it's always going to be electric, fire, and ice.
Yeah.
And then
something along those lines. And so these guys are just wild. Mm-hmm. And they're neat because I don't know, they're kind of like robots. Like they're sprites, they beep and their lights flash. And it's it's like they're ancient. It seems like they're ancient technology and they're just really weirdly out of left field. It's like they're hard to understand. Like Pokemon have very distinct personalities most of the time. Even the ones that I said didn't, like Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, you can still kind of like get their vibe. But Regice, Registeel, and Regirock are just like these golems. Like they don't, and they're just powerful and they just, I don't know. It's
there's no like slated real purpose or anything like that.
It's just totally unknown. And because they're so ancient.
And there's no record of them even. I'm just thinking now, like, do they delve into that at all within the anime, which I know is different?
I haven't seen enough of the anime that they were in. That would be the 3rd gen anime. I just didn't really watch it.
Are golems from Jewish folklore, or what? And what are golems in
they? That? And this is me speaking like very at the cusp of my knowledge bank. But I do believe, Kelly, you might know actually a little bit more about them. They were protectors of, I want to say, of sacred sort of.
I did an episode on Golurk, who is a golem.
Right,
but
and that was so why. Long ago, though, I don't remember. Was why I was like. Kelly, you're going to save me on this one.
We've done like 150 episodes.
Right.
Oh, no. But I can read you some of the Pokedex entries. And this is Regirock because he was just the first one in the list. Regirock was sealed away by people long ago. If this Pokemon's body is damaged, it is said to seek suitable rocks on its own to repair itself. Let's see here. Recently, a study made the startling discovery that the rocks were all unearthed from different locations. Let's see, what else is there? It repairs itself, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think the most important part of that, though, is that it was sealed away by people long ago. And so, you know what? That is kind of jogging my memory about the golem story. That it was created to like protect people and then it was sealed.
Right.
Is it because it's considered too powerful, or were they scared of it, or what are they?
I believe it was out of the fear of its power.
They created something that they weren't sure if it would always protect.
Yeah.
Which is, that begs the question, like, they seem to be man-made because they're like, they seem to be mechanical.
But they do have a magical automaton component to them.
Yeah.
As I see from the etymology on its history page on Wikipedia, because that's the world we live in, the word golem occurs once in the Bible in Psalm 139, 16, which uses the word galmi, my golem, that means my light form or raw material.
Light form, raw material. Oh, that's really interesting. The rock, ice, and steel.
Connoting the unfinished human being before God's eyes.
Oh, wait, so kind of like how we view the golem is how God views us? Is that what that meant?
Maybe? I mean, we'd obviously need to be doing a little more unboxing, and I've got a friend who is studying to be a rabbi who I can definitely have on, and we can...
Oh, I would love to.
We can discuss a little bit with him.
Because it'd be kind of interesting to be like, if you think about it, the idea that we're like a bunch of like meat parts that somehow got electricity inside of us so that we can move around is really funny. That's kind of like a more advanced species and or all-knowing entity would probably view us a lot like a bunch of rocks that can like suddenly just like move around and have purpose and are potentially so powerful you'd want to seal it away.
I think to bring it back to sorting, because I'm just going to be the guy who's roping us back, despite the fact I want to go further down this rabbit hole, like, truth be told. I feel that these are Ravenclaw in nature.
You think so?
I think so. I think the as the more static or I don't want to describe Ravenclaws as soulless, but the fact
they aren't moving from their heart usually.
Right.
And these probably don't have hearts.
No,
inside.
it seems very unlikely.
Registeel is hollow.
Yeah.
Ooh. I just feel that they're very much running on a program, and I think that Ravenclaws definitely are more analytical than and computational.
Here's what I would like to posit.
Oh.
Because the Reggies were sealed away by people long ago, probably out of fear of their power, I would like to posit that the Reggies were probably made by Ravenclaws. However, maybe their raw power and
you're leading us towards Slytherin because you think that they're ambitious, or like their actions might have led these Ravenclaw inventors
down to like a darker path.
You have to remember, like, this is a way that I've been like trying to unpack, like, what exactly like more essentially makes somebody in the house besides like horoscope personality traits.
Right.
And I have kind of come up with the theory that the houses are either head driven or heart driven. And so I would put Hufflepuffs as the heart, with the heart, and the Gryffindors are with the heart. But also, are you led by a sense of wanting justice and fairness, or are you a little bit more, not necessarily in a mean sense, self-serving? Where so I would say, and so I would put Slytherins and Ravenclaws as head-driven, and Ravenclaws tend to be like more like empirical, and Slytherins are ambition-driven, and Gryffindors are the heart-driven who are ambitious, and Hufflepuffs are the hearts who are fairness-driven.
This is crazy. This is blowing my mind.
And by the way, I've never read any Harry Potter books.
Really?
So take it with a grain of salt. All I know is sorting.
That's so funny.
But truth be told, I think you're right on the money. I think
that kind of changes my mind too.
Well, I'm viewing this as the golems were constructed going off of the narrative in which you are sort of presenting. They were created to theoretically exist within the motivation of replicating a Ravenclaw. So they're playing God. They're like, Ravenclaws, we got to make other Ravenclaws because clearly we have a sense of what is correct for everybody. However, their fear was that these Ravenclaws were not actually going to be Ravenclaws, but would be Slytherins.
And the interesting thing is that in order to find them, you have to be very cunning and resourceful.
Yes.
And you have to really want to get them because it's freaking hard. And so that's more of like Slytherins would find them.
Yeah. But I would say that these are probably Ravenclaws.
Yeah.
If I'm going to sort the Reggies anywhere,
I think that you're right.
Even if they were self-aware, they'd probably say, we probably are overpowered. Seal us in.
Yeah, they which actually that almost strikes me as a Hufflepuff thing of like, I'm worried I'm gonna hurt somebody, guys. Like, if a Hufflepuff were bit by a werewolf, they would be the ones who are definitely like, guys, just give me like a bunch of raw meat and like lock me in a cabin on a hill for a handful of days. Like, I'll be fine. Just, come back the next week.
I don't know. Yeah, these Reggies just like shooting from the hip feel like Ravenclaws to me.
Of the Reggies, which is your favorite? Just off of...
Sorry if I mispronounce any of these, but Regice looks like something a Silver Lake hipster would wear around a necklace on a pendant.
That was my favorite because in the anime, Ash has like a really weird vocal line where he's like, "Oh, Regice, glow!" And he like falls down a hill, but he literally is like, "Glow!" And it's very strange. And so every time I think of Regice, I'm like, "Glow!"
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'll find the clip and I'll show you guys after this.
But Registeel is also like, for some reason I always like non-animal Pokemon a whole lot. Like my favorite Pokemon was Magneton, and I like went through a phase where I like loved electric types, especially if they were like non-animal ones.
Electric types are dope. I'm definitely in the psychic and ghost camp, but like I think electric is probably like right below that.
I think electric is I don't know. I can't speak to like any further generations, but electric was just always very well balanced
Yeah,
in terms of like you can get by with electric if you're in a pinch.
Yeah, that's
what's
true.
your favorite typing, Kelly?
My favorite typing is water ground, a dual type.
Oh,
but I
gotcha.
also really like grass types. If we're talking design wise, I think grass types are my
Grass
favorite
type
designed.
always look great.
Yeah, they're cool.
Grass
And I love
always
fairy
look-
types, of course. Like, it's super cute.
Yeah.
There was something, though, I wanted to say about Registeel. I don't remember what it was.
Was it his crazy fingers?
He does have crazy fingers, yes.
Because-
Regice also has weird fingers, and then Regirock, they were like, no fingers for you.
Yeah.
No fingers, just rocks.
Like you're not picking
But he's
up
got
anything.
some intense shoulder pads.
Yeah. Oh no,
For real.
he's got that power suit that is like.
And Registeel doesn't have very impressive shoulders, and Regice is like, I get everything.
Mhm.
I have like some impressive shoulders, and I have little fingies.
Mhm. All right, jumping on into our Lake Guardians.
These are cute as heck, folks.
The Lake Guardians are cool, too.
Yeah, this was what I jumped into and was like, these are dope.
Yeah, these are
these
crazy.
cuties?
So the Lake Guardians live at the bottom of 3 lakes in the Sinnoh region. They are, it's Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf. And I'm reading this because I don't want to mix it up because they are each a certain emotion or something.
Oh.
Uxie is knowledge, Mesprit is emotion, and Azelf is willpower. And they are also extremely dangerous. Every Pokedex entry you read is like, do not look at these Pokemon in the eye. You will die. You
No
will get,
way.
you're going to get, do we curse on this podcast?
You can curse.
Yeah.
You're going to get fucked up by these Pokemon.
Whoa, because that's crazy because
They're very cute.
They look like little baby animals.
Yeah.
I would just die immediately if I lived in this universe. I mean, like I would probably have died like 5 minutes after I left my mom's and/or the professor's house and like went out in my first tall grass.
It's definitely one of these wild things where like arguably some of the most adorable Pokemon are the most lethal.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, starting with Mew, where it's like,
exactly.
oh, by the way, like you can't see it, but if you do see it, you're probably dead.
I'm gonna pull up some Pokedex entries because I think it'll give you guys a good idea of what the deal behind these guys are. So Uxie, who is the one, the knowledge one, it's known as the being of knowledge. It is said it can wipe out the memory of those who see its eyes, and it gave humans the intelligence to improve their quality of life. So it's like, I don't know. It's a lot of give and take there. It says when Uxie flew, people gained the ability to solve problems. It was the birth of knowledge. I mean, knowledge points to Ravenclaw, but I think as a trio, I don't know if we're gonna totally arrive there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I
that's
have
kind of Uxie's
a
deal.
thought, but we'll see if we land there.
Mesprit, who is the being of emotion, it taught humans the nobility of sorrow, pain, and joy. It can leave its body and flitter on the water's surface of the lake. I don't know if that is relevant, but when Mesprit flew, people learned joy and sadness of living. It was the birth of emotions, and it empowers the human heart. So it just like got all emotions up in there. And then Azelf is the being of willpower, and it is people gained determination from this Pokemon.
What's so crazy about all of these is they're just like dropping the keywords associated with the houses.
They are, right? So they all seem to be like different ones. But I think as a trio, they kind of steer me more toward a balance of all 3 of those things.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a Hufflepuff trait.
I do too.
Okay.
I was thinking that, yeah, the fact that because Hufflepuffs do strive for balance and like a degree of equilibrium anyway. And you've got everything in like what you were saying with Uxie is it has that give and take. It has like, it can erase your memory, but it also gave you like the concept of just knowledge and being inquisitive.
Right.
So like that is balance. Then you've got the emotional side with Mesprit, correct?
Yes.
And that's again like joy and like it's all of them are providing like the pro and con of whatever quality you're receiving. So I think those all are like leveling themselves out, which also like, I mean, there's also the part like, I know we shouldn't purely base off aesthetics, but like based on both the Pokedex entries and just the way they all look like such doofy, wonderful things.
That's like, I'm like, these are the legendaries that you're always going to be like, they're cute. They're never beautiful or handsome. And that's like, a Hufflepuff's never going to get beautiful or handsome, but they will get adorable. Doing their best.
On a very quick search of Hufflepuff traits, I think something to be said for Mesprit, Uxie, and Azelf are Hufflepuff is the most inclusive. It values hard work, dedication, loyalty, and fair play, which is, I think, very on point for these guys because they don't take a side. Gen 4 is like a war of dimensions. It gets pretty nuts. Yeah. These guys are like, nope, we're not.
Gen 4 was Palkia and...
Yeah, Giratina, Palkia, Arceus was in there. Dialga,
oh, that's right.
Like that was like the war. That was like when it was like, are there gods? There's multiple dimensions.
Yeah, and that was when space and time came into everything. And
I had no idea that this happened.
Oh, the world of Pokemon was quite literally turned upside down.
Yeah, so Gen 4 is the most lore heavy, the most lore.
I'm gonna go down a Wikipedia rabbit hole of this tonight.
Yeah, no, like I remember because I came into this purely based off the fact that I thought Dialga was like very cool looking and was like, I'll get back into Pokemon for this. Like, I want this Pokemon. That seems dope. Yeah. And then was like, oh my goodness, what has gone on? Like on top of not knowing which Pokemon were like from Gen 2 or Gen 3 already, then there were just like so many more types and like all of this other stuff. And then the story was bonkers. And yeah, so Diamond and Pearl is a soft spot in my heart.
So we're putting these guys into Hufflepuff.
Oh, they are, yes.
Yeah, they take part in no wars. What is that? They're like the Watchers on the Wall. They take part in no wars. They're not involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's another thing you guys should do, some Game of Thrones stuff.
Oh wow. We can sort some regions for sure. Some houses there.
Or even just like...
we can sort the houses into houses. That's going to be fun.
Or even just landmarks would be really fun.
Oh, yeah. I'll deal with that. Get that map down. Where does the neck get sorted?
What about that library that doesn't let women in?
All right, so now are we jumping to Swords of Justice or Forces of Nature? I'm not sure where they fall sequentially.
We can do the Kami Trio first, which is Forces of Nature.
Okay.
Look at these cloud genies. What's going on? Okay.
I hate them. They're
we're not going to get to them first. We're going to go to the Kami Trio.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I thought they were the Kami Trio. My bad. They're the one I'm least familiar with because I just hate them. So we will do the Forces of Nature. What is the Kami Trio? What does it say they are?
What?
Candy Trio?
Kami, like Kami.
Oh, okay.
Kami Trio is... yeah.
It is them. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're known by many names. Okay, so Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. They're all genies on a cloud. And Tornadus is flying. Thundurus is flying electric, and Landorus is flying ground. Crazy typing. Man, these guys drive me crazy.
Yeah, flying ground is a bonkers typing.
The cool thing, I don't really know what their purpose is in the lore because they don't really, there's nothing that really talks about them very much. However, they do have two forms, and they're called incarnate and Therian forms.
Right.
What?
So the incarnate forms are these genies that you are looking at. And I'll pass you my phone so you can see the Therian forms, which are more like a primal, like animal form.
Oh, okay.
And so they
I like these a lot better.
Me too. I think they look a lot cooler
like bros that like are gonna have a bunch of devils.
They're all like crossing their arms like,
I'm a libertarian is what's coming out of the mouth of all of these genie Pokemon men.
The Therian forms are super strange though because I'm so baffled by especially just like, so what animals are they supposed to be? Because one of them's a hawk, one of them looks like a cat of sorts, and then the other one I am just unsure.
A unicorn? A bipedal unicorn?
Oh, I could
I honestly don't know sure.
Because it has a tail that's like twirling. Which one is this guy that I'm?
That's Thundurus.
Thundurus. Thundurus has, if I can describe him for you, and we probably should have been describing them a little bit more.
I've been trying to do that. Like, these are vague looking.
Yeah. Thundurus, when in its Therian form, has a horn, as Kelly suggested, a bit of a like flowing mane coming down it.
It looks like it could be clouds.
All of them have some sort of bushy mustache sort of thing happening. And then a purplish breastplate of sorts and some claws that are matching in clouds in a sort of come at me bro pose.
It looks a little draconian,
They
but
all
also
have
not.
belly buttons.
Right.
Yes, they do.
What?
Fairly defined
Including
belly
the bird.
buttons.
Why does the bird have both a mustache and a belly button? Which, like, you're not a mammal bird. What are you doing?
There's no umbilical cord.
Get out of here.
And the bird one has a like curly Q tail, which is
This bird doesn't make. It's got like a rat.
which is like a very unusual thing for a bird to have.
This bird's my favorite. Oh, and it also has little hook things that dinosaurs had. This bird's all over the place.
Yeah,
Like, this is definitely like more of a dinosaur bird than like a common day bird.
Oh, well, there are some dinosaur birds in like very clear dinosaur birds in Pokemon.
I've been just trying to get more because I was like, all birds are dinosaurs, but some
Some birds are more dinosaurs than others. Yeah. We went a little Animal Farm.
Okay, so this is the very, very tiny amount of lore that you get in the Pokemon games about the
Cami Trio.
The Cami Trio, the Dorises is what I call them because they need a stupid name because they're stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you come across the shrine that Landorus is in, you find 3 children arguing of Great Landorus. Great Landorus allegedly punished the 2 other legendary Pokemon, Tornadus and Thundurus, for wreaking massive destruction across the land with their ferocious gales and fierce thunderstorms. As such, the thankful inhabitants of the land, saved from the danger posed by the Cyclone and Bolt Strike Pokemon, constructed a shrine in honor of Landorus.
Oh.
So that's about it. They kind of control the weather. They're really unconcerned. They're all the legendaries are unconcerned with the affairs of man. They're all very, very like way above that that BS. But these guys kind of it's hard to sort them because I don't want my emotions to be involved in
I
it.
feel like they're chaotic in nature.
Yes, they're
and
very chaotic.
Volatile.
And,
Which makes me believe that they are Gryffindor because they are brash and they've got their own agenda. They aren't necessarily taking into consideration everybody else, but they've got their one track. Like, I do this thing and I do it really well.
That's really weird. Also, that like Thundurus and Landorus are dual types, but Tornadus is only a single type.
Yeah, they're all, yeah.
So it's like I thought, and
It's a
also
strange-
I think
It's a strange thing.
they just have to have that flying dual type purely because they're on clouds.
yeah, but why does Tornadus not have like a second thing attached to it?
It would. I
And the other
mean,
two
it
is-
could maybe be flying normal.
I get. I'm just on the bold
don't
beat.
know.
It's just flying type.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if it were going to be a dual type, I could only see that being its typing because you certainly,
Yeah.
unless you were trying to tie its lore very, very, very like obtusely to the Wizard of Oz, you could maybe argue fairy, but the design flies in the face of that because nothing about that is saying fairy type to me.
Yeah. And also Fairy was not
Not
there
at that
yet.
point. Right.
What I want to put forward about these guys is that because they're based on genies, genies are also very self-serving. Genies tend to
Be traditionally there.
Yeah, traditionally tricksters, self-serving tricksters.
Yeah.
And that's much more of like a Slytherin sort of thing. And these guys, like, they all have angry eyebrows, and they've got these angry eyebrows and mustaches, and they all look like And so I feel like if I had to choose, I wouldn't I wouldn't want to play chess against one of these guys, one of the genies, because they're...
Oh, they might not be a good sport if they lose.
They might not be a good sport, and they might beat me.
You might also be wagering for more than you thought you were.
Yes.
This might be the seventh seal sort of situation.
So I would put them in a Slytherin camp, I think.
Very, like, erudite references.
What can I
Orwell.
Hey, when we talk Pokemon, we're like diving a lot deeper than anybody thinks that they are. Like, truthfully.
Yeah, this is great.
There's some just, nutso butso inspiration, and I concede that a case for Slytherin is pretty strong.
That's where my gut's saying.
Do you feel that the incarnate versus Therian forms differentiate as far as because why would they take one form and not another?
So the reveal glass is the thing that turns them into their form. Mm-hmm. And so I guess you could say that since it's a reveal glass, it reveals their true or their inner. It's the Therian forms seem to be more like raw, primal sort of thing.
Which I would definitely associate with a more animalistic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's something to be said for that. I think that the incarnate forms, the genie forms, are very Slytherin-y, but the Therian forms could be more Gryffindor because that's more of a like a less head-driven and more just like power-driven sort of thing.
I just feel that sometimes we do need to make that sort of distinction, just like we did with the legendary birds, where because there are these sort of unique mechanics to the way that these Pokemon are presented, we want to be as fair as possible with them, because I'm also the one who will constantly be defending Slytherins, because it's like, just because it is remotely evil does not mean it is inherently Slytherin.
Right.
But
yeah, I was trying to I did have that thought while I was describing them, and I didn't want to just put them in the camp of their Slytherin because they're bad. Right. But I do think that the genie forms, the incarnate forms, are very much more cunning.
And I feel like we have to give ourselves a little bit of forgiveness when we do make that mistake, Michael, because J.K. Rowling has done no favors to like dissuade people from doing that.
Right.
Whenever she disagrees with somebody politically on Twitter, she calls them a Slytherin, and it's the funniest thing. Like, I've never seen. Can you imagine any other like great master author like dropping references from their own book? Like, can you imagine if what's his butt?
George R.R. Martin.
I was going to say Tolkien.
Okay.
Like calling somebody like Gollum or something in a beef letter or something.
Oh my goodness.
Or like Camus being like, man, you look like somebody whose mom could die and you wouldn't even notice what day it was.
You called me out for making references. Now you're just like, oh, I get to step up my game on this one.
Who was also smart, Michael.
You've been smart the whole time, Katie.
And I let nobody know.
It was a trick. A very clever ruse. All right, so we have sorted the two forms. Now, Swords of Justice, I'm looking at this here, and they are, as things are sort of slating them, as a quartet, which that's super weird to me. I never saw.
I don't see them as a quartet because Keldeo came out. Keldeo is a mythical Pokemon, and Virizion, Terrakion, and Cobalion are not mythical Pokemon. They're legendary Pokemon.
Right. That's
a huge distinction.
It's a very odd. So forgive me. The difference between legendary Pokemon and mythical Pokemon is what?
Mythical Pokemon have have set base stats. Pokemon have stats, obviously, and the mythical Pokemon all have, I believe, 100 for their base stats. Mm-hmm. Let me just double check to make sure that Keldeo is there. And usually the mythical Pokemon are distribution only, and Keldeo is distribution only, whereas you can find Virizion, Cobalion, and Terrakion in the game.
I see. So all of those Nintendo events where you had to go into a GameStop to get the code to get that makes it mythical. And
Right. So like
And all of
Mew,
those-
Celebi, like I don't know, Jirachi, like none of
And
those.
all of those are banned from tournament play
Usually.
because they already have like fixed stats as opposed to
I don't think it's fixed stats, but I think it's more like a balance issue because legendaries generally are banned from tournaments because their stats are just much higher than all normal Pokemon. But I think that it's a misnomer to classify them as a quartet because there's so many similarities between Terrakion, Virizion, and Cobalion. And then there's Keldeo, who's very, very different in a lot of ways.
well, even just the suffix
Yeah.
makes you immediately question why would these Pokemon be a unit? And I suppose you can make the argument like, I mean, okay, they all kind of have a similar goat or like horse look to them.
Yeah,
They're all
equine.
hooved.
Yeah. But other than their equine-like appearance, it's a stretch, I would say, especially because suddenly Keldeo is a unicorn.
right.
Like
Keldeo's just like this little cute thing, and the rest of them are like very noble looking. Keldeo looks like a baby,
Yeah.
and the other ones they look all grown up.
right. Although it does have the same typing of fighting. and
Yes,
then-
it's fighting / something else. So yeah, it's definitely should be involved, but I don't think that it can be considered a true trio. Also, because Keldeo has 2 forms, Resolute and normal form or whatever. And none of the other ones have forms.
Gotcha. All right. So dealing with Cobalion, Virizion, Terrakion. Is that
Yeah, that's right.
What's the lore there?
Okay. These are another one that I really like.
Okay.
So, first off, they're all based on the 3 Musketeers. And they're called the Swords of Justice. They have an ability called Justified, where if they're hit by a dark type, which is general in Japan, it's not called dark type, it's called evil type.
Oh.
So if they're hit by an evil type or a dark type, they become stronger. And so they're it's very clear that this trio in particular is like no bad guys. They do everything that they can to promote good and light.
Are they
And
like
they're like paladins?
If like Superman was a Pokemon, would he be like somewhere in the same
Kind of.
universe as this?
Kind of, yes. But the cool thing about the Swords of Justice is that they were basically there was a war. So there was a war between there's been a lot of references to wars in Pokemon, and we don't know if there was one war or if there were many wars, but the war that these guys were involved in was a war between humans and Pokemon. And Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion came in to be like, humans, cut this out. Stop messing with the Pokemon. We're going to kill you if you do. And so they basically stopped the war between humans and Pokemon. It's not clear if at that point humans and Pokemon never worked together, or if after this they did work together, or if maybe that was just like totally something different. I don't know what the nature of the war was, but we do know that it was a war between humans and Pokemon, and these guys stopped it because they were like, stop it, humans.
I'm glad that they did. Otherwise, this would have ended up like the Animatrix, where we're just wiped out.
Yeah.
What humans? What do you do? Why are you gonna fight Pokemon who are literally magic animals?
And that's another reason why I don't think Keldeo should be involved, is because in the lore, there's these sages that talk to you about this war, and they never mention Keldeo in this war. And so I don't think that this is a true quartet. I think it's a trio with a bonus kid.
Keldeo just showed up and was like, and I helped. And they're like, did you?
Yeah. So I think that we can rule out Ravenclaws for these guys because they were definitely more led by their drive for justice and not like they didn't outsmart anyone. They were just like, we're powerful. You're being shitty. Stop.
Right.
That sounds like some Gryffindors to me.
I feel like we need to lean that way only because like literally it's justified. That's like their ability. Like that's like Gryffindor's just and loyal.
And
and
they did present a relatively harsh, it
was a hard line. They were like
a hard line, and I'm thinking to like McGonagall very much as
Is McGonagall a Gryffindor?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's headmaster for Gryffindor.
Oh, okay, cool.
Maggie Smith just
As all I know is
these guys
Maggie
are not
Smith.
interested in compromise. They were like,
So that's definitely not a puff.
Not a puff trait, not a Ravenclaw trait.
Not a Slytherin trait.
Not a Slytherin trait.
Gryffindors are probably the best negotiators.
Well, it's like Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs, I feel, are the negotiators, and then Ravenclaws are like the bean counters on let's make sure that all the numbers check out.
Mm-hmm. And Slytherins are like, can I use like a power move handshake on you?
A Trump handshake where he pulls you in.
Yeah.
Scary. But yes, I think that probably I would have to go with Gryffindor on these ones. And I think it's the clear choice for them.
Are there any other Pokemon who are based on famous literary characters?
Yes. There's a Pokemon called Infernape who is based off of Sun Wukong from Journey to the West.
Oh.
And there are others. There are many others.
And she's on the spot, so
They're out there.
she's falling away from
Answers
the
are
mic,
out there.
everyone. But you certainly can learn more about these types of Pokemon who have literary influence and many other fun traits if you check out Kellie on the Decks. Both the
really
YouTube
do.
channel and podcast. I think at this point we've properly sorted the trios which we declared. We can potentially return for a secondary set of the other trios, and maybe when the Tapus or even another generation comes out, we can
because we didn't
more.
even talk about Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza, but they're also on a different level of trio than Regice, Regirock, Registeel.
Yeah, that's the weather trio, correct?
Yes, and they're they're so much more integral to the formation of the Pokemon universe. I don't know. They're more if the trios are demigods, these guys are more godlike.
They're the top tier.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Literally, Groudon was here's the land. He rose the land.
So they're legendaries, but in a different sense.
Yes.
Gotcha. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you once again, Kellie, for coming on. We, as previously mentioned, you can see a lot more from her on the decks. You're both a voice on Smosh Babies and on the cartoon that I created, Obituary. You can check out that pilot on my YouTube channel, Belated Media. Soft plugs for that. Any other plugs on your behalf, Kellie, that I might be forgetting?
No. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. You did a good job.
Great. Also, hey, I haven't asked this of any of you lovely listeners before, but give us a review on iTunes. That would be super helpful.
Oh, yeah. And slide into Michael's DMs if you're a lady.
Yes, because this bit just won't die. So, yeah, give us a review on iTunes. We'd greatly appreciate it. Let us know what you love and don't love about the show, because your feedback will help us improve the show. You can also write to us at sortinghatpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me at Belated Media on Twitter. You can follow Katie at Katie Reed on Twitter. You can follow Kellie Whisler at
Poke Kellz, POKEKELLZ.
on Twitter. Thank you all so much for joining us on this wonderful Pokemon-filled episode of The Sorting Hat.
All right, bye.
Bye, thanks.
Bye-bye.